Get it set up.
Testing.
Let me go grab.
You have to speak like from the whole base. You have to speak it like other people will understand what's going on. To be like
Yep, it's live. Okay. So see, I was like a little behind. Can I set that microphone?
Testing.
hello. Yeah, you have to like literally testing.
So I think we're good, right? Let's see if it's loud enough.
Testing.
So I think we're good, right? See if it's loud enough. I want to hear her talk on this. It's so weird that it's lagging, but she talks right now.
This is like a 30-second delay.
Yeah. I want to hear her talk on this. It's so weird that it's lagging, but
afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. Welcome. Good to have our sisters back on campus. We give the sisters a round of Misericordia welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Leihart. I serve the university as the Vice President for Mission Integration and Student Life. We're really excited about today as we start Mercy Heritage Week, an opportunity for us to really celebrate our heritage, what the Sisters of Mercy mean to this institution in its founding, and certainly as part of our 100th year celebration for the university. So it's a great moment for us to be able to introduce Mercy Week in this way, to kind of have the conversations that we're going to have over the next maybe hour and a half. Certainly in the spirit of Catherine McCauley, as it relates to fellowship and being with each other, we'll have a little reception. We hope you can join us with that as well. Some logistical kinds of things. We are live streaming the event. I'll make some announcements at the end. You can stay here. There will be some limited seating over in the art gallery, but we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. I'd like to introduce you to our president, Dr. Dan Myers, for a couple welcoming remarks.
Thank you, Amy. Am I going?
Yeah, you're on.
I'm on? Okay. It's so weird how we do all these things with just a little phone these days. Like, where's the big camera? It's a real pleasure to have you all here today, and all of you out there. It's an exciting time for us here at the university, celebrating the 100th anniversary of this wonderful university. In fact, I think tomorrow is the official day, September 24th. I was just looking it up on the Centennial website to make sure I had the date right. It's tomorrow is the official start of College Misericordia in 1924, September 24th. And so it's very exciting to be here with all of you and to be celebrating everything that's going to happen during the course of this year. We have many, many things going on over the course of the year, and I hope that you'll come and be a part of all of them. Today's a very special day. We're going to hear from our panel, and I'm excited to hear them reflect on this mission and the history of Misericordia, College Misericordia, and now Misericordia University. But also after this, of course, Amy mentioned we'll be unveiling the contents of the time capsule, which it had an interesting story over the past year as we were trying to locate it, because there weren't good records on where exactly it was buried in the building. And so the structural engineers had to do a lot of work to figure out where it was. It was like going into the pyramid, but we did find it, and so we're very excited to unveil the contents of that today. That'll be a nice ceremony. So this is the 100th anniversary of something that's not just a university, but it is a mission. It is a way of coming at education that we think is just so important and so powerful, not only in the past, but in the world today. Service, mercy, get them right, hospitality, and justice. Okay, those are the cornerstones of how we come at education here at Misericordia, and it's really in everything that we do every day. We think about what kind of education that we're giving to folks, but also how we ask ourselves to interact with each other and be in this environment. All four of those are very, very powerful, along with the other legacies that the sisters have given us in terms of their critical concerns and all of those things that we build in to the special kind of education that we get here at Misericordia. So thank you again for being part of this moment here in our history, and watch for the rest of the events as we go through the semester and get into 2025 as well. It's going to be very exciting, and I'm really pleased to not only have all of you, but the participation of the sisters. Some couldn't make it over from Mercy today because of the weather, from Mercy Center, unfortunately, but they'll be with us at many other events during the course of the year, so we hope you'll have a chance to interact with them and fellowship with them as well. So thank you very much. I'd like to turn it back over to Amy, who's going to introduce our panel today. Amy?
Thanks, Dr. Myers. I would like to start with a little prayer. It's a prayer poem Many of you are familiar with Sister Mary Wickham in terms of the kinds of messages that she provides to us. And this is her Mercy Day poem. So I ask that you pray with me. Mercy Day, if we utter aloud the word mercy, standing each of us by an open window, anywhere we are in the world, then the word mercy will carry on the sound waves, onward and unceasing, through the air of the wounded world. And maybe, when it takes flight into deed and kindness, justice and effort, it will effect a healing, a hope, and a blessing. It may call the homeless home. It may coax to hope the betrayed and broken. It may cease the burdened earth. Listen for it. The repeated word mercy on Mercy Day. Listen for it. Listen for its neighborly dialect and global idiom. Imagine those who, like you, are saying it aloud, and those who need to hear it. Today, the word mercy. One word, one deed of justice, one kind effort at a time. Creator God, sustainer of life, Jesus, our companion word. Spirit who, like the air, inspires. Give us the simple daring this day to say and to be mercy. Amen. So today our distinguished panel will explore how these values continue to inspire and influence our work, both within this university and beyond. Through their insights, we will examine the enduring significance of these principles, how we've grown and how we've enhanced this campus in the academic environments, in our communities, and certainly to service of others. So I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. First, we have Dr. Cindy March, RSM. Cindy has been a Sister of Mercy for 43 years. She's a licensed psychologist. For those of you who are new to us, it would be important for you to know that she was at the university working for 27 years. She worked for a few years in what was then campus ministry, now mission ministry and service. For many of her years, most of her years, she was the director of our CAP Center, the Counseling and Psychological Services Center. And in the last few years that she was with us, she was in the area of mission. Upon leaving Misericordia, her ministry shifted to a private counseling process and practice to address mental health needs during the pandemic. And currently, her main ministry is teaching English as a second language to immigrants in the United States and to Ukrainians who live in Ukraine in the midst of the war and wants to improve English to improve their work opportunities or be able to eventually move to an English-speaking country. Welcome, Cindy. Our next panelist representing Mercy Association is Dr. Joe Cipriani. Dr. Cipriani is a professor in the Department of Occupational Therapy and has been a faculty member at Misericordia for 34 years, and he's been a Mercy Associate since 2014. Welcome, Dr. Cipriani. And last but certainly not least is one of our amazing students, Giselle Rodriguez. Giselle is a senior biology pre-med student. She serves the university as a campus life assistant. Some of you may know that as a former resident assistant. We've changed some terminology here. She's also a member of our Student Government Association as a policy liaison. She's in her second year as a Mercy leader. Some of the things that Giselle has participated in: she is a Kids on Campus leader. She's been a search retreat leader. She's participated and traveled on 3 service trips through mission ministry and service. She's also a volunteer in the Hospital Elder Life program. She is the officer of 5 clubs. And in her spare time, she is an admissions student ambassador. Welcome, Giselle. So what our panelists have been asked to do is we have provided an opportunity for them to reflect on some questions for all of you. We'll move through the panel, and then at the end of the panel, we'll open it up for dialogue, discussion, questions, or comments that any of you would like to make.
Thank you, Amy. Can you hear me? Okay, great. When Amy asked me to offer some reflections today, and she said I would be the past. I really had to pause. I'm still here, but the past, it was awesome because I realized that I'm now in a new, I guess, age bracket. I can be the past, right? I mean, I'm sitting here, it's awesome for so many of our sisters who are usually speaking and recounting the past, and now here I am. So I'm on good company, I know. Another just thing I just want to know, I am old because I have to now shift my glasses to read my notes. And I am going to stick to these, I'm going to not read them, but because it's only 10 minutes, I could say so much, and I don't want to go past the time limit. So, excuse me, if I switch my glasses. So, my reflections today are not meant to be like a historical account, really so much. There's so many more people that can do that, and Marinchek in archives could do that. But instead, my reflections are more a sharing of my lived experience, throughout the years here, from the time that I was a student in the late 70s, to 80, and then as an employee in the 80s and 90s and 2000, 2010, to 2020. So, I'm just going to ask that you just kind of keep that in mind. And now, actually, I'm a witness to this evolution, and this transformation of lived mercy, like so many of us who have been here and now are not here. But, there's a lot of growth here, and I just want to speak to that. So you probably have heard when the sisters started the university, which was College Misericordia at the time, 100 years ago, the sisters did everything, right? They were the faculty, they were the staff, they were the administrators, the cooks, the housekeepers, right? I missed anything? Everything. Maybe not the grounds crew, but they did everything. But by time, and there were, obviously it was all sisters. And then little by little, some lay people came in, and the sisters realized that we needed to expand the help here in terms of, and the wealth of education. But by the time I got here in the late 70s, there was still a good number of sisters around, actually, And I remember that. It was such an impression on me. And I'm going to just name some. And hello to the sisters who are watching live stream. I just think for the sisters, it's really something to remember, some of them. But some of the sisters that were faculty were Sister Sienna Finley, and Sister Agnes Brennan, Anne Elizabeth McLaughlin, Regina Kelly, and this was during my time, Karma McGargle, Flora Mulhern. And then as they were faculty and staff, I remember Sister Ruth Kelly and Sharon Gallagher, Madeline Gill, they were house mothers. And Eloise McGinty was the registrar. Jean Massaros, yes, she went back from the time I was a student. She was in campus ministry. Sister Mary Frances DeDulis and Ann DeVanny were Act 101. And some of our sisters were administrators. Sister Mary Treese O'Donnell was the president. Sister Ann Miriam Gallagher, president. Who else do we have? Martha Hamlin was the dean of students in my time, and of course Mary Glenn, an academic dean. So I'm sure there are other sisters, but I know there's sisters who are feeling that connection with them as we speak, and especially as we celebrate the centennial. So anyway, that time, it was a time when the sisters represented in the flesh and by lived example, right, what mercy was about. And so there were no formal programs on mission and mercy like there are now. So it went without saying that faculty and staff and administrators, we took the lead of the sisters. Well, not me, I was a student. I did take the lead of the sisters. And then there was a foundational understanding about what the sisters were about. What was it about in terms of living mercy in day-to-day life? And how was higher education to be carried out in the Catholic and mercy tradition? So we learned that from the sisters. And then also besides the sisters' examples, I remember that what was foundational here in terms of mission and mercy was programs in faith and spirituality, and of course service. Service has been huge, right? So that service is key, because the Sisters of Mercy take a fourth bell of service. We still do that. We have always done that. And because Catholic tradition, highlights social justice and the corporal and spiritual works of mercy. So it's imperative, right, that we continue these service projects. So as the years progressed, the sisters I mentioned above either retired or they moved on into other ministries. And then some others came, like myself as an employee in the late 80s, and Sister Pat Lisinski, I think we came around the same time. And others like Sister Patty McCann, and Carol Gallagher, and Noel Keller, Cecilia Meehan, Robert McLaughlin. They all, and I'm probably, missing some, but they all came, at different times during those years as well. So at some point then, in the 80s, the Mercy Associate Program began, and I know Dr. Cipriani is going to talk about that, but all I just want to say in the chronological sense of this is that many employees were invited by the sisters to become lay partners with us, and live the Mercy values. They basically, were signing up to say, my values align with the Sisters of Mercy, and I want to live those in my daily life. Obviously, anybody can do that, but it was a certain level of commitment, and it was a new call to live mercy for our lay employees to be part of Mercy Association. In the 90s and the 2000s, the call to mercy broadened with the start of the Mission Integration Committee. Mike McDowell will remember that, right? And it was a committee, and it was, made up of sisters and also our employees who were also Mercy Associates. And then after a time, and it was, devoted to helping mission develop here a little bit more with more intention. But after a time, it was strongly recommended that mission needed a more fuller sense, a more fuller attention than a part-time committee could offer. And so it grew into a full-time position. Sister Jean was the first vice president for mission. That she was the part-time and the full-time position. So, and the whole idea of that was that, our mission-based and Catholic and Mercy values should always have a seat at the table of significant conversations to assure that we do stay rooted in our founding values. So, I guess during that same time period, in the 90s and the 2000s, lots was going on in different areas. Student Life added a whole segment for incoming first-year students and their parents on mercy and mission. The FYE program, the First Year Experience, which is the extended orientation program here, started a class wholly devoted, again, to mercy and mission. The athletic program, with its growth over the years, the coaches became so committed to making service a regular part of team experience. That was impressive. The Ally Group was initiated in order to support the LGBTQ plus community on campus. And since then, there's growth because I understand, that the whole area of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is in a broader way intended to all the differences among us, in the community. In the 2000s, participation in Mercy Association grew to the point where there were more Mercy Associates here on campus than there were in the Mid-Atlantic region. And that was largely in part, not only because of sisters' invitations. I know Patty invited the whole education department, but also because of so many employees who were Mercy Associates inviting other employees, to be part of that. So, that was a huge thing. And then there was also a growing awareness and commitment to the critical concerns of us sisters. And these concerns, I'm sure if you're here, part of this community, you hear about them, but they still remain. They include racism, immigration, women, nonviolence, and care for Earth. Faculty began to do research and academic work centered on one or more of the critical concerns. And in the year 2000, the Women and Children program was started by Sister Jean. And later on in the decade, the Environmental Sustainability Committee began to address concerns of Earth. And Mercy Day gradually became Mercy Week, as we see here this week, to highlight the values of this institution. And even people, you know, like Lelaine in the art gallery, I know is very conscious and brings exhibits here that highlights the different critical concerns as well. So you hear, I hope, that there's such a breadth here of involvement and engagement. Somewhere along the way, too, I have to say that this place became known as the place where people hold doors for one another. Do people still say that here? I don't, do they? I always loved that because it was such a testament to Mercy hospitality. You know, that we could say that about one another when, you know, part of this community was so great. So overall, I am wrapping up. I would say that through the years, the community of Misericordia has become, two words, more engaged and more intentional about living the call to mercy. It's evolved from a time when the sisters led the way to a time when people used to see campus ministry as the area that was responsible for mission, you know, and service projects and all that, to having a vice president for mission integration. And now, with this evolution, we come to a moment when there's a growing awareness that the mission and mercy of this community is not just the responsibility of one area, right? But it's the responsibility of all. So, as far as my own call to mercy, you know, Amy asked me to say a little bit, 43 years tomorrow, I would say my life has forever changed when I became a Sister of Mercy. The particular call has invited me over the years to become more open to all of life. You know, all of life in all its forms and experiences. It's challenged me to become more kind and more compassionate. I still work on that. More educated, more confident using my voice, more willing to take risk in speaking up for those who are oppressed, not just humans who are oppressed, but non-humans, the earth, animals, and more willing to engage and challenge others in the spirit of critical thinking and compassion for those different and less fortunate than ourselves. So my call to mercy only deepens with each passing year, and I'm just so grateful. So I'll close by saying that mercy is not about the Sisters of Mercy. It's not for the Sisters of Mercy. It's for the world, right? It's about being a more compassionate and caring and loving presence in the world so that all living beings, again, human and non-human, know themselves as worthy of being seen, of being loved, and being just as they are, just as God made them to be. So living this way, the mercy way, can change the world, and it does. So now I'm going to pass the baton to Dr. Cipriani, Mercy Associate, because like Catherine did in the early days, you know, she worked with her lay partners to open the first House of Mercy and all the foundations after that. It was critical, and we do the same. And so we're proud to partner with all our lay colleagues and our Mercy Associates.
We ready to hear me okay? Yeah. We didn't really plan these segues, but that actually worked out really well. Thank you, sister. I was honored to be asked to be a representative of the Mercy Associates. I think it's just so cool to think about that. I'm not sure if we still hold the record, but I believe we might have the most Mercy Associates out of all the Mercy schools by like a large margin maybe, so that's kind of cool to think about. My own journey, and I have to sort of personalize this because Sister Cindy has a much better idea of the history of Mercy Associates, but as I recall in my teaching career, around 2000 ballpark, there was more and more increasing discussion about how people who are not Sisters of Mercy, but who are longtime persons affiliated with the college, whether employees or not, their numbers could grow to help carry on the mission of the sisters. And so somewhere along that way, I had a moment of inspiration, I guess, where I kind of threw a hint to Chris Summers, actually, around towards the end of 2008 or 9, and I kind of said I wouldn't mind being a volunteer on one of the trips to Jamaica, and to my surprise, she said, okay, and she arranged it, and I ended up going on 2 trips. This was our Christmas break trips, and that had a really big impact on me. Really got me to start to think. And there was stuff going on at the college, even at the academic level. For example, service learning was already on the move, and there was a lot of opportunities to reflect on the charisms in class, especially with service learning. But along the way, it was 2014, I was asked to join this, the Mercy Associates, and I followed through. And I don't think Sister Noelle is here, right? She might be listening on live stream. But in classic, the sisters were always good, and sometimes they enjoyed it, a little comedy, of course. And she walked up to me during the ceremony, and she just said, "Nice." And she said, "Well, what took you so long?" And I was like, "Okay, Sister Noelle." And I knew she was kidding. She was laughing. But everybody, I think, was beginning to think about the possibilities. And so, being a teacher, I thought, well, what could I do? And a couple of ideas came in my head, and I got the go from everybody to do them. So one thing that I did, service learning. So I think everybody might be, somewhat familiar about the idea, but you really have to tie your course objectives. It's just not about service. You're really having a learning experience where service is a component of that, a very important one. But I thought about underserved populations, and one of them was working with the homeless, and I created an elective class in my department where students could sign up. It was not required. And I spent 5 years then offering this elective class where we had a very strong service component, and because it was academic, I literally had in my syllabus, one of the objectives was the students were to reflect on mercy, service, justice, and hospitality, and how it pertained to working with this particular group of persons. And from help from service learning, we were able to not only work at Ruth's Place, but Volunteers of America, the transitional living facility, where some of the residents were very close to the age of our students. We have an alumni, and I think this is kind of how it all works with community and connections. Misericordia alumni had a very powerful connection at a place in Schenectady called City Mission, which is an absolutely extraordinary, to call it a homeless shelter is an understatement. It's an entire block long by a block long of services. And we spent fall break there, and it was just a great learning experience. I could think of one thing that was very moving for students and me to think about. The textbooks have their definitions of things like poverty, and you might define poverty, let's say, as a lack of financial means or resources, and that could be part of the definition. But one of the more profound definitions that the professor used in their chapter, was to look at poverty very broadly. And one of the things they said was the poverty of relationships. And a lot of people may have a lot of financial means and maybe even be famous, but they may be suffering greatly from the poverty of relationships. And that really got me thinking again, what we were doing. It was very important to me that the students be included in everything I do, plus a colleague or two, which I don't have the skill set to do it myself. And it helped me grow a great deal as a person. I think we always treat people with respect here. I have a very hard time thinking of any examples easily of that not being true. But I think it just turned things up a notch, where we begin to look at people as incredibly valuable. And, what can we do as a partnership? And so another opportunity that came up that was connected, I was affiliated with an organization that was looking at doing some therapy work, and a group from Jamaica in a place called Mustard Seed Communities contacted them to see about potential staff training. And I heard of that, so I decided to do the second thing that I did was create an elective, which was international service learning, where students could go with the professors and provide a set of services, in a place other than, in this case, not in the United States. And interestingly, the sisters have a presence in Jamaica. We got to visit several of them. And, I just kept thinking, with the sisters, they always seem to, they reflected on what they were going to do before they did it. They had a plan. They were grounded in things. So again, we didn't do our trip the first week of the semester. In fact, we didn't do our trip during spring break, which everybody told me we should do. We did it at the end of the semester because I thought we needed to do that much preparation to work with a group of people who we haven't met, that had a need. So probably more assignments they wanted to do, maybe more stuff than they originally wanted to read. But I think there was to develop a sense of cultural humility was really important, and that is not something you do, overnight. And I also think to have a bond between everybody. So I felt good about having students, again, have those experiences. I had no trouble filling the class. I capped it at 7 or 8 students because I thought it was extremely important. We were one team working, and we reflected a great deal on the charisms again. COVID did make some changes and all those type of experiences, at least temporarily, but a lot of schools do good service stuff. But I think we have sort of a very, not unique maybe, but a wonderful opportunity here to look at our history, our fellow employees, our students, and say, how can we work together for bigger things? And I'm very kind of humbled to have the opportunity to do that. Nobody ever said no. Nobody ever said you can't do this or that. And I think it made it not only a difference in my life, but I think it made a big difference in students' lives, because some of the students who have graduated I've kept in contact with, I consider my friends now. And it was that experience we had together. That was not just, there were some things that were involved with each other, but for something else. And I think that just meant, it meant a great deal, I think, to everybody involved. So, and again, the sisters have been, I think, absolutely inspirations for that. I just want to note some of the sisters I recognize tonight. My mom lived in assisted living when it was at the Mercy Center, and some of the people here were on my mother's floor, and you folks always treated my mom and I with great love and dignity, so I want to thank you. I'm going to pass this now. I don't want to get too emotional. I want to pass this over to Gazelle. And again, I didn't plan this segue, but I think the students might have something to say, so.
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you all for being here. I just want to start by saying that I used to go to Scranton Prep, which is very Jesuit, so I already have done service. We actually have to have, I think it was like 100 hours of service to graduate, but I do think that the service that I've done over the past and the service that I've done here at Misericordia has been different, and I do think it's because the service that we do here is driven by mercy. So I remember sophomore year, I went to Chris and I was like, I want to lead a ministry here, and she was like, pick a ministry, and I love kids. I want to be a pediatrician, so I already know I was going to pick Kids on Campus, and it was the best decision I've made. So I am a Kids on Campus leader, and when I started sophomore year as a leader, we went to the playground with the kids for about an hour. But now, fast forward 2 years, we have built structure for the kids, so now we do 2 hours bi-weekly, and the leaders and we try to have structure, and we plan the meetings of what we're going to do. So I remember when it was Mother's Day, the kids drew for their moms, and they wrote notes and stuff. So we're always doing kids stuff, not just for the kids, but also engaging the moms as well. And we have also added giving the kids dinner. So you might think it's just benefiting the kids, but it's also benefiting the moms, because now that's one less thing they have to do when they get home. And apart from that, I also have been to adopt a grandparent, which I love doing when I have time. And I have also gone to 3 service trips. So I went to North Carolina my sophomore year, where we partnered with Habitat for Humanities. So we built houses, and I learned a lot. I learned how to put floors, and I was up on a roof, which I was really scared about. But we didn't just get to build a house, but we also got to build it with the families there. So we got to learn about their story as well as building the house. So as we were building the house, we had a story behind why we're doing it for. I also went to Texas and California, and those were immigration trips, which hold a place in my heart because my parents are also immigrants, and they came from the Dominican Republic, and I also got to learn about other cultures as well. So I always try to keep an open mind for other cultures, and I love learning about new cultures and new religions and things like that. So just because I have a background in immigration and my parents are immigrants, I also got to learn about the parents of the other students that went on those trips, and I also got to learn the stories of those who we helped when we went to Texas and California, which was a really fun experience. Apart from doing service here at Misericordia, I also volunteer at Geisinger GWB, where I volunteered the Hospital Elder Life program, and that program is there to reduce post-operative delirium. So I'm there and I help the patients with getting all their stuff together, getting their family, but there's also patients that are there alone. So I get to learn about their stories and why they're there and everything that they've been through. And I get to use the resources of mercy that I have learned here and use it towards them as well. I'm also a community assistant, which before I became a CA, I was confused of why we use the term CA and not RA, because I have other friends that are in other colleges and they're all RAs, but as time came and I became a CA, I learned why we're called community assistants and not just resident assistants, because I'm in the freshman building, and they're the first face that they see, and they're really scared. They're first years, so I'm the first contact that they reach out to, and I really try to show mercy through this by not just saying, oh, I'm here for them, but also showing that I am there for them. So I always say that actions speak louder than words, but I really do believe in that, so I just don't say things that I don't mean, and I show it through mercy that I have learned here. And since I am a community assistant, I just try to learn everybody in my floor, but also in other floors and other buildings. I get to know, I talk to my other community assistants about their residents, and I say hi, and I communicate with other residents in other residence halls. And I think that's why it's important that we're not just resident assistants for the whole community, not even if you're just my resident, but for the whole community. I try to engage everybody. And I also want to be a doctor, and I do think that all of these opportunities that I have been granted with, and all of these, I would say all the things I've learned here for mission will help me in my future career. And I always say that being a doctor was a dream that I got and was put in my heart for a reason. I do think that these past 4 years of all the mercy opportunities have shaped me and have shaped me and developed for me to continue working on that dream.
Thank you. Stay away from that thing. Thank you so much for those words. Can we give them another round of applause, please? I hope when I have grandchildren and I hear that they have to go to the doctor's office, they wind up in your office. It's truly an opportunity to kind of share those stories, right? And every single one of them, when we had conversations about this panel, aside from Cindy saying, Amy, I'm not the past, yeah. There was this humility in terms of, in this vulnerability. I think like Dr. Cipriani and I have been colleagues. We came in the same year, and he's on Mission and Values, and he's been a Mercy Associate, and you are correct. We hold the record in terms of Mercy Association out of the 17 Mercy schools. We're very proud of that. But Dr. Cipriani is saying to me, I'm honored to be asked, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm saying yes. And one of the things for me when I walked into the mission office position back in 2020 when Sister Jean retired, and I was promoted to that role, one of the things that I reflected on was two things. One was feeling a sense of pride that this institution would put in me in terms of being in a space where I can work with our faculty, our staff, and our students about living this mission. Included in that are the Sisters of Mercy, my affiliation with them, being able to do these kinds of things and share their word. But the other main thing that I took with me into this position was about what many of the sisters taught me. And when I came, so the stories that Cindy was talking about, there were about 15 or 16 sisters that were working in a wide variety of places, as you heard. They were in administration, in the classroom, and in a lot of other places. And I had really transformational, and we use that word here in our mission, I had transformational career experience and personal experiences with sisters. But one thing always stuck with me, and that was in any session that I was in, where any of the sisters were talking, they said to me and to all of us that were in there, and I say this to all of you, whether you're listening to us on live stream or whether you're here with us, that mission lives through every single one of us. And we're all mission officers of this institution. And you can certainly hear it in terms of the kinds of experiences that we share as a community, that our students share both in the classroom and the kinds of experiential learning that they do in a wide variety of ways, and the way that they're going to carry this forward. So again, I thank you for your words, and I thank you for saying yes. You can clap. Okay, and now the fun part. We have about 15 minutes. If anybody has a comment, a question, I can say this to this group. Everybody know who Phil Donahue was? Yeah? I say that in front of the students, and they're like, I have no idea who that is. Any question, comment, raise your hand. I'm happy to get the microphone to you. First one's always the hardest. Where? Oh.
Hi, this is a comment for Sister Cindy. I'm Madison Hebler from the CAP Center, and I just pretty much wanted to say hi. I have your rocking chairs in my office. And just hearing your words, and I know that we can say, well, they're just rocking chairs, but there's been a lot of students that have come and sat in those chairs over the years, and during my time here, I've heard a lot of good things about you and the impression that you left on the CAP Center, and we just really appreciate your advocacy as a woman in the mental health field and in the world that we're living in. And there's a lot of healing that's been done in those chairs, and they survived a flood and 2 moves, so they're still going strong. But thank you for all that you've done, and we're definitely trying to keep that message alive that you've instilled those years back, so thank you.
Thank you to the panel, and I like the idea that began with you, Cindy, when you broke open Mercy. A few years ago, when Pope Francis proclaimed the Year of Mercy, he talked about a mercy movement. And I did a lot of reading around that, and one of the things that I discovered was, mercy does not belong to us no more than the Dominicans' own truth or the charity's own charity. And I think the way this panel evolved today, as we grow thinner on the ground, God's mercy is alive and well through our associates and the hope that we get from a student like Giselle, so I think the idea that mercy is a gift, that it's a God-given gift to all peoples. Thank you.
A few years ago, I think, Pope Francis used the word mercy-ine as a verb. And what I have heard today in the three of you, and probably everybody in this room, is that we have been enabled and blessed by using mercy as a verb, putting it into action. And if I had grandchildren, which I don't think I'm going to have, I would have them in your office. Thank you.
Talk about ancient history. I am probably the only survivor of the first 50 years. I came here as a very young sister, and I was on the faculty, the music faculty, which was really very, very strong at the time. And I not only taught full-time, Mercy Center was just opened for the faculty, for us, for students, because McHale was just being built. Sports, we had women's basketball, not like we have today. I left here after 3 years. But while I was here, we had the Vietnam crisis, and that was hard because a lot of it was all women at the time too. Many of our girls lost their brothers. The chaplain was a very busy man, and so were we. We lost 6 girls in car accidents. Those 3 years were unbelievable. I was sent to Mount Aloysius, and I was there for 32 years. So this was my introduction to higher ed. I came back here 5 years ago, and I tell you, the Mercy spirit is so alive on this campus. I was so afraid because I didn't know what had happened. Everything had changed so much. Now remember, it was all women, few commuters. In fact, there were 550 residents, because I also was dean of resident students. And it was unbelievable what we had to do. But you know, God has blessed us, because look at what's happened with the 50 years that you got to go on now. Thank you so much for I can't thank you enough for your service and your love and hospitality. And as I said once before here, that when I came, I was just a little old nun that went in to get a schedule for the basketball games, and I was they treated this little old lady with such dignity, and I'm not worried about her anymore because it's in good hands. Thank you.
Other questions? Other comments?
Since Sister brought up basketball, I have to tell you the story of why we have football. Years ago, we had every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we'd have basketball in the gym, and the girls would play at 6 and the men at 8. And Tina and I would come, and in between, somebody had the bright idea that we were going to have a fundraiser, and we were going to have a game of horse. Now, you remember that, you throw the ball. Okay. So they put me on one end of the court and Sister Jean on the other. Well, guess she cleaned my car. Nobody told me that she played basketball as a student. I was thinking about football, but after that I decided we have to have something I can win at.
Stories are wonderful, right? The stories are wonderful. Anyone else? Okay. I have a couple thank yous, and I hate doing this because you always forget somebody, and I'm going to apologize for that up front. But we had a very active Mercy Heritage Week committee. My thanks to Chris Summers, to Leslie Diffenbacher, to Lane Little, to Dominic DiMatteo, to Sam Jarvis, Madonna Mantione, to Alicia Stavitsky, to Scott Wilno in terms of the technology. All the kinds of things that go into these kinds of events are really important. I need to send a real special, she walked out of the room because she's over in the other room getting ready for the next part of the presentation, but a real special thank you to Maureen Check as the University Archivist. She has worked tirelessly. If you haven't seen the memory wall, it's over in Mercy Hall. Please make sure that you see that it's on the first floor as you're heading down to the President's Conference Room, if you're able to get over there to see it. She has done an amazing job in terms of pulling the kinds of history that we wanted to highlight through this celebration that we're going to be going through for the entire year. But I really wanted to make sure that I extended thank yous to them. Thank yous to the Mets group. There's a beautiful little reception that we're going to be able to enjoy after that presentation on the time capsule. My thanks to our panel, Cindy, Joe, and Giselle. It's amazing to hear your stories, and I thank you for lending some of this time in preparation for us today. So what will happen now is we have about 5 minutes. I'm waiting for a text message from our team, from Sam Jarvis and Alicia and Madonna, who are going to give me a go-ahead, and you have a decision to make. There are seats available in the gallery. You are more than welcome to sit there. We have 25 seats. If the sisters would like